Welcome to this brand new episode of Cast It to the King. My name is Joshua Mickle, and we are going to be discussing all podcast the recent loss that the Titans just had to go through. They suffered against New Orleans Saints and losing 16-15. So if you're wondering, how in the world did Tennessee lose with 15 points? I will tell you how. Death by field goals. That's what happened. So right off the bat, let me just preface this in saying Nick Folk is a good kicker, and he made all of his kicks when he needed to. So for this year at least, our kicker situation is pretty much taken care of. What happens next year? We have York on the practice squad for kicker, so that's a whole nother story for another day when it comes to kicking. Now, for this entire game as a whole, I'm just going to break down key moments that I thought in the game that were significant and key parts that were insignificant, and also parts where I just want to let loose right now. And so, opening kickoff is a fumble by the Saints, and the Titans recover on a challenge play, actually. It should have been called a turnover, but Vrabel challenged it, first play of the gate, and we win the challenge, only for our offense to stride out there at the 30-yard line-ish and go 3-and-out, essentially. Go 3-and-out, we kick at the field goal of 3-0. And then the rest of the game is essentially death by field goals. There's only one touchdown score in this entire game, and I believe the Saints' touchdown came off of a Tannehill interception, and we will get to Tannehill, that nuisance of a person, in a moment as a Titans quarterback. Positives of this game, I will get out of the way. And just to preface, in case you haven't noticed, this is going to be a pro-Titans talk recap of the game. Pro-Titans talk. And this man right here, 31, Kevin Byard, he is the dog. He still is the dog in Nashville still. He still is the dog. He's got that dog in him. And now, this defense was spectacular, and it was just as advertised. The secondary, as you can tell from the scoreboard, only gave up 16 points and only one touchdown against the Saints offense. Something that some commentators have speculated that if on the positive end, this Chiefs offense is going to be high-powered, akin to Drew Brees with Derek Carr now the quarterback now. At least for this Sunday, that was not the case. And he only got one TD through in there, and he had multiple turnovers. He should have had one more, and we will get to that one in a moment. That was not played out. This Titans defense is ferocious. This defense will get in your face. This defense is it. If last year wasn't enough, I don't know what this year is, because this year they are answering the bell on all fronts with how this defense is getting after the quarterback with less men. Some teams have to get after the quarterback while blitzing two extra guys. Tennessee can do it with just their front four men. Pulverize that O-line, old school style, with just the front four men and have the linebackers and corners cover in the secondary. And our front four, Alden Key, all the hype of him in training camp. Congratulations, man. You are now one of my biggest fans, and I look forward to you probably getting a whole bunch of more sacks this year and more pressures, because you, my friend, did more in one game than Bud Dupree did in all of his time in Tennessee. I will tell you that right now. You did more in one game than what Bud Dupree did as a Tennessee Titan on the field on Sunday. And then the rest of the squad, Byard, our recent acquisitions, Gifford, the starting middle linebacker, got after it. You can't ask anything more of your new starting linebacker, who is an undrafted free agent. He was on the practice. He was not even on your practice squad last year. He was on someone else's. Signed him back this year, and now he's starting and he's balling out. So for him to be able to do what he did for his position and for the duties that he had, A+ for him. Gifford with an A+. The secondary, I would give it a solid A. I would give it a solid A score for what the overall body it has done for the team. 16 points given up, turnovers forced, pressuring the quarterback with about 4 sacks, I believe. And like the ease they got to Derek Carr with just 4 men. I mean, again, I can't preface this enough. Their defense is just stacked and loaded. Now, the Saints won 16-15. Yes. Now, let's get to how they won. The score, I believe, and I want to get this correct. I want to say, yes, here it is right here, and it will be playing on the screen for you right now. The score was 6-3 Tennessee with about 7 minutes left in the second quarter. And Derek Carr is pressured by one Alden Key, strips Derek Carr for a fumble, and Kevin Byard, this man right here, I'm glad I picked this jersey over Marcus Mariota years ago, takes the fumble all the way to a house, and you're thinking, holy smokes, the defense just scored the first touchdown for the Titans season, and someone just lost money in terms of who's going to score the defense, who's going to score the first touchdown of the Titans season first. Turns out the referee blew the call dead and didn't let it play out. And as it was said on the commentator's part, and Jason McCourty was with him as an extra color analyst, these referees are trained to let that play out, and then they're trained to let it play out, and then if it is not the correct call, it's a turnover, you get an automatic review, and you can get the call right. They did not do that. They did not let it go. Vrabel still challenged it to at least have it to be a change of possession, because by rule, if, say, for example, what happened with Alden Key here, he strips Derek Carr. The ball's out of his hands, and the ball is essentially being pushed by the hand, not being thrown out of the hand, a la Joshua Dobbs last year versus Jacksonville, that resulted in the game-changing touchdown, which propelled Jacksonville to the division title last year over Tennessee in Week 18. Same thing here. Ball's moving forward. Defender sees it and says, thank you very much. You cannot call that to be a touchdown on a dead play, but what you can do is if the call is reversed, and it should have been reversed, if the call is reversed, New Orleans doesn't get the ball, Tennessee gets the ball at, say, like it was the 12 or 13-ish yard line. It was within the 20-yard line, but they will still get the ball back. The referee says the call stands, and the Saints kick a field goal. That gives the Saints 3 points, and it takes away the Titans at least 7 points. That is a 10-point swing in the football game, and this is one of. Had it not been for one particular player's play on the football field, we would be talking about the refs in this game of how atrocious they were. They missed calls. That strip sack fumble that they didn't let play out. This ref crew is one to be scrutinized. And usually these referees are graded out like by the committee in the NFL of like, if you do badly, you get deducted points, and thus that carries through the year. And if you don't have a good grade, you don't get to referee in the playoffs, and you don't get to referee in the Super Bowl. So you have to have good grades throughout the season in order to qualify for those playoff games, and for the Super Bowl, or at least the playoff game. So this crew better be getting a bad score. Now, on to the person that should be getting loathed and deserves to be loathed. And that is one Ryan Tannehill. Going into 2022, he is dealt with, all of our quarterbacks in 2022 was dealt with the following. A horrible wide receiving core because we traded away A.J. Brown. A bad offensive coordinator in Todd Downey. A horrible offensive line. And those the trifecta, the bad coordinator, the bad wide receiving core, and the horrible O-line. The coordinator, the O-line, and the bad wide receiving core. Tannehill did the best with what he could last year to propel to a 7-3 start. He was responsible for three of the 7 losses, or is it? No. He was responsible for 4 of the 7 losses, I believe, in that 7-game skid last year. Now he is responsible for 5 of the now 8 skid losses. Now counting this year, we are now on an 8-game losing streak. And fun fact, 2014, Ken Wisenhunt, our last head coach, a few head coaches ago in 2014, lost 10 straight to end the year. Our next 2 games is against the Chargers, the Browns, and the Bengals. There is a realistic possibility that Mike Vrabel could drop these next 3 games and Vrabel surpasses Ken Wisenhunt in most consecutive losses in a regular season. Wrap your head around that fact right there. That is how bad this is. Now, not to get into Mike Vrabel for a minute, we will touch on him, but for Tannehill right here, he dealt with all that in 2022. So did Malik, and so did Joshua Dobbs, for those that want to still defend Joshua Dobbs. Even though I can't stand Joshua Dobbs. He could have won us the football game today. Why? He had 0 turnovers. He had 0 interceptions. I don't know. Let me look at that up right now. Joshua Dobbs. Stat line versus the Washington Commanders. No. He did have a turnover. I'm giving him too much credit. He had 1 turnover, a fumble that apparently led to a victory for the Commanders in Washington, which they almost lost that game to the team that's supposedly tanking for Caleb Williams right now. But even for Joshua Dobbs, he could have done better than Ryan Tannehill. He threw 0 interceptions. Tannehill threw 3 today. He threw 3. And he should have thrown 2 more. He should have thrown at least 2 more interceptions for 5. This man right here is getting paid $36 million this year. I am starting to become convinced that this man does not care anymore. He's getting paid. We have not cut him this year to save half of that money in dead cap with just $18 million. We want to try it out with this guy for another $36 million. So I am starting to become convinced that Tannehill does not care anymore. He's got his money. He's not going to get a bigger paycheck anywhere else after the Titans. This is his last hurrah. And for those that wanted to say, oh, Tannehill's the best quarterback that we can win with right now, and we could be possibly giving him an extension if he does well this year. Where are you at right now, Tannehill defenders? Where are you at right now? Probably hiding underneath a hole right now in embarrassment. Or you're probably at the bar drinking for how bad this was, because you cannot defend this performance that was Tannehill's. Throwing it into double coverage multiple times, 2 of which resulted in interceptions. The second one that you throw in double coverage to Chris Conley, which, by the way, Chris Conley, another Houston Texan wide receiver that Mike Vrabel just wants to bring along to the squad. Why? Was a non-factor. Chris Conley was a non-factor, and he's supposedly our 3rd wide receiver on the depth chart. Supposedly our 3rd wide receiver on the depth chart. Threw into double coverage to Chris Conley. Shouldn't have. Maybe should have been called for PI, but he still threw it into double coverage. So you did yourself no favors there. On that deep throw, you missed Chig Okonkwo underneath that double coverage for a wide open Massive gain. That would have at least given you 3 more points right there in the victory right there. Could have, but didn't happen. The first interception to DeAndre Hopkins. Yes, I know you want to say you trust the guy and you're trying to build chemistry with the guy. You had apparently so much chemistry with him in camp that all is well and kumbaya and we're all doing well and Tannehill's the better quarterback in training camp over Malik Willis and Will Levis. You threw into double coverage against Marcus Lattimore. You don't do that. You do not do that. You do not do that at all. And Lattimore comes down with the interception. So Tannehill dared, and he lost. The third interception is unexcusably horrible. Threw it right to a defender, and that led to the Saints' touchdown. The only touchdown in the game. He should have thrown 2 more, and he missed 2 touchdowns, and they were set up beautifully by Tim Kelly, our offensive coordinator. You see, this is the dichotomy of week 1 of how shockingly bad this is. The dichotomy being Tannehill had nothing to work with last year, and he was dealt not a bag of goods. He was dealt with a bag of crap last year. He was dealt with that bad hand last year. This year, he set up better with the O-line, and he set up better with the receivers, and he set up better with the OC, and he doesn't show up. He doesn't show up when it's time, and he doesn't show up when it says, okay, you got the pieces around you now. Now deliver it to us. He did not deliver it to us. He misses Okonkwo on what was a beautiful flea flicker play. It was an end around to, I think it was Henry Spears. It was to one of our running backs, to a wide receiver, back to Tannehill. Throws it up for Okonkwo. Has him for the touchdown. And he overthrew him. And I'm like, oh my God, that really just happened. When 9 times out of 10, when you pull out the flea flicker plays in the NFL, they are always executed perfectly, always executed well with someone down the field catching the ball, because it is such an easy throw to just loft it up there. Now, it would have been great if, MJ, you're watching, I'm going to steal your line here. It would have been great if Ryan Tannehill hit Okonkwo in stride. That would have been great. But you overthrew him when you could just lofted it. Same thing to Tajay Spears, which, by the way, running back 2, had a decent game in the passing game and in the run game. Very impressed with him as a rookie. So it's going to be interesting, assuming he stays healthy. That's the key thing with this team. This team needs to stay bloody healthy. And so, Spears is left wide open. And Tannehill overshoots him. No one around him. No defender near him. And you overshoot the guy. The least you could have done is just loft it up, guarantee a catch, and then let's see what the guy can do, busting off tackles and possibly taking it to the house maybe. You could have given him the opportunity. You did not give him that opportunity. I forget which drive it was. It was early in the game. And it's a tough throw and catch, but there's an out route where Spears was in the right spot to receive a football for a touchdown catch from Tannehill. Tannehill overshot that one too. So I'm counting that as 2 overshot catches for Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill missed out on 3 touchdown passes today. No, not today, Sunday. He missed out on 3 touchdown passes on Sunday. 3. 2 to Spears, 1 to Okonkwo. DeAndre Hopkins, really good game. He was targeted over 10 times, and he got about 60-plus yards receiving. You can't ask anything more for your number 1 wide receiver when you try and dish it out. Now, with that out of the way with Tannehill, there's something that needs to be said, and I'm going to be the only one that's going to say it online. It needs to be said, this right here. Mike Vrabel. There are so many things in this game that oozes horrible coaching. Let's start off with this right off the bat. You got about 40. I want to get this right. I have the highlights right here in front of me. I want to make sure I get this right. Get this right here. You have 30 seconds on the clock and 2 timeouts. The one play you run that drive with about 30 seconds left, Tannehill goes down for a sack. 25 seconds are now on the clock. What happens? Do you call a timeout? Do you quickly huddle the line? Oh no! We'll just run out the clock and run to the gates for halftime. Yeah, we don't we don't know. Like if we take a shot deep, there's a good chance for that we might turn it over. You have 2 timeouts with plenty of time to get into field goal range, and you give up like that? You just say, "Oh, the heck with it. Oh, we're getting the ball back in the second half. We're gonna be fine. We got the lead 9-6. It ain't nothing. It ain't nothing at all. No. Yeah. You don't know nothing. You're just a fan. Deion Sanders reference right there. You're just a fan. What do you know? That's 3 points I'm going to count as missed opportunity for Mike Vrabel in this offense. The way this guy wants to have offensive play calls done with Tim Kelly and not having Derrick Henry out there on the field most of the time, I believe that third interception, if I'm not mistaken, Derrick Henry was not on the field at all during that drive, which ultimately ended in an INT by Ryan Tannehill. I know you were trying to conserve Henry. You have another running back and you want to try to split the goods. I understand if you want to try to do all that. Hey, I'm the guy that says you need to air it out more and split the line like gradually throughout the year to where it's 55 passing, 45% running with your offensive philosophy, because you are not going to win a Super Bowl running the football, and you are not going to contend with the defense just carrying the entire load for you. It's never going to happen. And that's a shame. We have an incredible running back. We have an awesome defense. And this is the offense that we are given. We are advertised all off season that this offensive line is so transformed. We have better receivers. We have a new offensive coordinator. Never mind the fact he's another Houston Texan related person on your staff. Never mind that at all. But yes, we have a better offensive coordinator, better than Todd Downing. Speaking of which, I had this conversation with a fellow Titan fan on the phone about this. He said to me that Todd Downing is laughing his bleeping rear end off. And I ain't the one to disagree with him. I would too, with the way this offense performed. 15.0 touchdowns. And here's another stat for you. We only scored 35 points total of all fourth quarters last year. 3 points in the fourth quarter today. 3 points. And he only scored 6 points in the entire second half. Unacceptable. Unacceptable at all. Unacceptable. 15 bloody how do you find a way to not score 10, 13, 14, 16, 17 points? You find a way not to do that. You get the middle ground with 15. How do you do that? How do you do that? No one could have predicted 15 points scored in a football game like that. And death by field goals it was, because I think it was an NFL record for a week 1 game for most field goals made in the game between the Saints and the Titans. So congratulations to both teams right there. So, hey, you got that to lean on. Hey, why not? We're making history right here. We're making history. Yeah, Tennessee's on an 8-game losing streak now, and Vrabel is the head of this rotten fish right now. He's the head of this rotten fish. And it needs to be said, the way this man wants to coach, the way he carries about himself with press conferences, especially this last one after the game, saying, oh, it's not just about one guy, referring to Tannehill with the 3 turnovers of the game. Oh, it's not about one guy. We got to block better, which only gave up 2.5-ish sacks, which is better than what most people can say from previous years. Let me get that right. How many sacks did the Titans give up today? All right. Titans, Saints. Yeah, let me just make sure I get this right, because I don't want to go off on a tangent, and I am missing on the stats right here. How many sacks? Sacks allowed. Yep, 3 sacks. 3 sacks allowed. Not much you can ask for right there. You gave up 3 sacks for what was an abysmal offensive line last year. So count that as an improvement. But Vrabel wants to say, oh, no, it's not about just one guy. We got the offensive line's got to protect better. The receivers got to get off the ball faster. Get off the ball faster? You chose these wide receivers. You chose these guys. You chose to bring back NWI as a 4th-round wide receiver. You chose to bring Chris Conley, which you have dubbed, and many folks have dubbed, to be a very fast wide receiver. He was a non-factor this game. You chose these guys. So hold your feet to the fire with that. And for those that say, oh, it was Rand Carthon, that's the GM that picks these players, Mike Vrabel has nothing to say about that. This is a collaborative effort between Vrabel and Rand Carthon. That is what I was told all offseason, is that whoever the Titans hires GM is going to have to collaborate with roster moves with Mike Vrabel. So every roster move that Mike Vrabel disapproves of, that's on you. That's on you, Mike Vrabel. You chose these guys. So if you think they're not getting off the line properly, why do you have them here? Show them the door right now if they're not doing their job. Show them the door right now. And then to lump our defense into that same phrase of saying, oh, it's not about one guy. Our offensive line's got to do better. The receivers got to get off the ball more. And our defenders have to play better. We gave up 16 points. How many teams would kill to give up 16 points? The Chicago Bears that lost badly to the Packers. And Jordan Love looks really good, by the way, with Matt LaFleur, who we had in the building for 1 year, and we let him go. So there's that to think. There's that to tug on for you, to chew on and think about. We let Matt LaFleur go. We had him in the building. We could have had him as a head coach. I'm not saying. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that. That's all I'll say. The Bears would have loved to only give up 16 points. They would have loved to give up just 16 points. The Chargers would have loved to give up just 16 points on defense. You see where I'm getting at here? This defense is ferocious. Yes, they may be beat sometimes, but this has always been a bend but don't break defense. Especially with Shane Bowen, and at least according to this one game, Jim Schwartz is no longer here. He was the assistant. He's now the defensive coordinator over in Cleveland, which they put a whooping on the Bengals the other day. So that's something to keep your eye on with the Browns defense and Jim Schwartz now. He is one heck of a defensive coordinator. So I do not envy us about playing the Browns in a few weeks. Shane Bowen knows how to make this defense sing. This defense, you can't ask anything more from it. This defense they forced a fumble. They threw, it's like the stats say it right here. 69 rushing yards for the Saints. 4 sacks. I mean, and 16 points given up. What more can your defense do? You can't ask it to do anything more than what you're asking them to do. Tell your offense to step it up. Tell your offense to step it up and score more than 15 points and score touchdowns for once. Score touchdowns. Golly. And those that want to be Tannehill defenders out there and Mike Vrabel defenders, and this notion of, Tannehill gave us the best chance to win this year. We believe the delusion that this staff has, the delusion that some of the fan base had, and some of the Titans organization brass had in saying, we believe we can contend this year. Yeah, we weren't that far off from a 1 seed. We believe we can do it again. We just got to run it back. We can't tank. We can't throw away the season. No. Poppycock with you. Baloney with you. We can't do that. We can't roll into the season with Malik Willis and Will Levis. No. What are you talking about? We believe that this guy, Ryan Tannehill, can give us over the hump. Get us over the hump and deliver us, hopefully, contention and a stacked AFC conference. I've said all offseason, I want 2023 to be a trial by fire and to hell with it. I want 2023 to be trial by fire. Cut Tannehill, use that extra $18 million for better O-linemen or better defenders. If you think we are horrible at corner, I think we did pretty well at corner, if you ask me. 16 points given up again. That's all I have to... there's nothing bad you have to say about this defense. 16 points. You should be able to score more than 15 points in a professional football game. Unless you really suck that badly. Unless you suck that badly. And apparently we do offensively. The stats show it. 3 turnovers. Burks had a bad drop, yes. We did not get Chikakonko involved. Tannehill missed on a whole bunch of throws on Sunday. Now, folks out there want to say on social media, on X, Facebook, or some Titans groups, saying, why are we doing this again? Please remind me what the reasoning is behind Tennessee going with Ryan Tannehill instead of riding with one of these youngins. Again, people want to call me crazy. Some folks like me want to call us Titan fans crazy of my ish of cut Tannehill and just use 2023 as evaluation year. You can't lose on purpose. You can't. How can you call yourself a fan? How can you call yourself a fan, Joshua? How? How can you call yourself a fan if you want us to lose? Because I know the writing on the wall, and I do not want to go through mediocrity. I don't want to be teased that we are good and we ultimately are bad. I said for a prediction that at the low end, we're going to get 5 games. On the high end, we're going to get 7 or 8 games winning. I also said that if we were to improve points per game offensively, up from 17 points last year to about 24, between 24 and 33 points, high end, we could get 12 wins. That's if we score points. We're not scoring the points to do that. And thus, we are on the low end of this totem pole of wins. 5 wins right here, 7 wins right here. On the high end, you're going to get 8 wins. And with the stacked conference, you are not going to get the wild card spot. And the way the Colts are looking, they might give Jacksonville a run for their money this year in the division. They might give them a run for their money instead of us. With them and Anthony Richardson. And that's now a losable game versus Anthony Richardson and the Colts. That's now a losable game. I believe our next 4 games are against the following. We host the Chargers. We're going to lose that game. We're at Cleveland. If week 1 is any indication, we're going to lose that game. We come back and face the boogeyman at home in Nashville against Joe Burrow, and he has our number. Vrabel is winless against the Bengals in his coaching career. That's 4 games right there. Then you have Game 5 versus the Colts. And let me just check our schedule. There is a real possibility after Colts we go to London and face off against the Ravens. That could be 0-6 for you. 0-6. For what was said to us to be a contention team, for what was said by this coaching brass of what was not going to be a team that's going to be losing, but a team that's going to be fighting in games and going to be winning games. This schedule does not make me feel confident at all. No. Not at all. Nope. There's a real possibility we go 0-6 into the bye. I'll tell you what, though. There are finally Titan fans out there that are finally opening their eyes after Tannehill's bad performance. There are finally fans out there that are finally opening their eyes and saying, what are we doing at Tannehill? This was a mistake. Oh, my God, no. He's this bad? You might as well try out the rookies or try out Malik. At this point, why not? Tannehill's leash better be so short, and I fear it's not. And if it is not a short leash and we continue to go through with trying out there Tannehill and he continues to give us bad game, subpar game to bad game to subpar game to bad game, Amy Adams, our owner, lost patience with Ken Wisenhunt for just 2 years after skids of losing. How much patience does she really have with Mike Vrabel if she sees skids of losing? One would hope that she would have the guts again to do such a brash firing in season with Mike Vrabel. I'm starting to think that she won't. Because she is that loyal to Mike Vrabel. I mean, until I'm told otherwise and shown otherwise, Vrabel's going to be the head coach for the foreseeable future here in Tennessee. If Tannehill has really, if he has the same game against the Chargers, no touchdowns at all and turnovers galore again, this game's in Nashville. How long before fans are going to be screaming for Malik Willis or Will Levis? Malik's going to get that first crack at the gig. He's going to get that first crack before Will Levis does. How long before fans are going to be clamoring for Malik Willis to get in there, and how long can Mike Vrabel put up with it? One says that his stubbornness is going to be like, you fans don't know anything. Tannehill's my quarterback. This season, week 1 confirmed multiple things for me for the Titans versus Saints. It proves once again that delusion is delusion. This team's not winning the Super Bowl this year. We are not going on a deep playoff run with this offense. This season now should be greatly looked at as a season where it should have been trial, but hey, I'm just gonna roll with what we got here, and this is gonna be a trial by fire year. If it works out, fantastic. If it works out, if it doesn't, then we're set up perfectly for 2024 for that draft. And the way this should be going, the way this year should have been, and it ultimately still might, unfortunately, the year this might go, is that if Tannehill's this bad, you got to see what you got at quarterback. You got to see who you have in Malik Willis. Give him a few game sample. If he does well, you keep riding with him. If he doesn't, you give Will Levis a shot here, who you drafted with Rand Carthon to be the heir apparent, and give him a few game sample. If he doesn't do well, you got to look at the NFL draft again. This is what the whole year should have been, saving $18 million, cutting Tannehill or trading him away for a 7th rounder, cutting him or doing something with him. But no, they want to have the cake and eat it too. They want to pretend that they're contending while also prepping and setting themselves up for 2024 and beyond. And I tell you what, with Malik, I'll say this one thing about Malik Willis is that he's shown struggles a little bit in the preseason, but what he's shown in the preseason is night and day much better than what he did all of last year as a starter for a few games. Much, much better. And I think if given the opportunity, versus the Saints, in all honesty, after that third interception, Malik should have been put in there and be like, okay, Tannehill, this is just not your day. We're just going to sit you down. We're just going to sit you down for the rest of the day. While you break that iPad, by the way, which they cut away on the TV cut away on the TV feeds, by the way. Tannehill had his breaking iPad moment, which is pretty funny. That they cut away, that they should have not cut away, because that would have been just vintage GIF moment right there. Even if Malik Willis had stepped into the game versus the Saints, everyone in their right mind, including those that think Malik Willis is not a good quarterback, everyone in their right mind has said and believes now that Malik would have done better versus the Saints and would have given us and would have helped us get a victory. Sound from the Sick podcast I listened to the other day, listened to their breakdown of the game. I agree with him when he says this. Half of the pressures that Tannehill was getting in with the O-line, Malik would have escaped from half of them. Half of them. Tannehill used to be a mobile quarterback. He is now a statue back there now. Now, whether that's him being scared or seeing ghosts or whatnot from past injuries, we saw this happen with Marcus Mariota after he broke his leg against Jacksonville in his second year. We saw that with Marcus Mariota, and his career went down the tubes, essentially. We are starting to see that slivers with Ryan Tannehill. And for those that want to be Ryan Tannehill fans or defenders, even they are saying Tannehill's not right in between the ears. What's happening? Where is this quarterback? These are their words. Where is this quarterback that was supposedly good during training camp? Where is this guy? Who's this imposter that showed up versus the Saints? Where is he? He clearly didn't show up. The real Tannehill, or maybe this is the real Tannehill, and the folks that wanted to go through with this with Tannehill and try to contend and didn't want to go through trial by fire with the two quarterbacks here with Lil Willis or Malik Willis are egg on their face right now. Major egg on their face for those that want to believe that Ryan Tannehill was going to ultimately make us better this year. No, yeah, egg on their face. Egg on their face for thinking this was going to be a better year, and egg on their face that they believe that Mike Vrabel has a good sense of judgment. He does not. This man, Mike Vrabel, oh my God, another thing. You don't go for it on fourth down. You play conservative and kick the last field goal, which gave you 15 points. Nick Folk, again, he did great. He made all of his kicks. He made a 50-yarder. I think he made multiple 50-yarders. He made all of his kicks, including a 50-yarder, at least one 50-yarder. Impressive and worth the 7th-round pick that we traded to New England for. Totally worth it. Totally worth every single penny of that 7th-round draft pick for the kicker. He can at least be a good kicker for us for at least a year or 2 years. Well worth it. You don't call a slant for Traylon Burks. You don't call a slant. You don't call a fade heave to the end zone for DeAndre Hopkins. You don't call none of those plays. Not one. That didn't cross the mind of you or Tim Kelly at all. And this is the kind of quarterback play that gives coaches their pink slips. But Mike Vrabel just has this loyalty with Ryan Tannehill, and I will harken back, and I will draw a parallel to what MJ said on a few podcast episodes ago when talking about how Mike Vrabel has such a bad experience with Matt LaFleur and why he wants to hire in-house with offensive coordinators. Now, I'll use this parallel to that extent. I believe that Vrabel is ultimately he had such a he for whatever reason, on bad judgment on his part, for whatever reason, he did not believe in Malik Willis so much last year that they drafted Will Levis and assumed that he was going to beat out Willis for the job and cut Willis. Turns out that didn't happen. Willis is still number 2 on the roster. I think there's a growing sense of, oh my God, what did we just do in drafting Will Levis? If he puts Malik Willis in the game and scores touchdowns, forget about scoring touchdowns, he wins games for you so much. Again, this is all hyperbole. That if Malik Willis steps in and he starts winning games for you, a la when Ryan Tannehill took over for Marcus Mariota in 2019. If that were to happen, there's going to be a lot of questions for Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon as to why did you draft Will Levis 2nd round this past draft? Why'd you do it? Why? I mean, why? That could have been a wide receiver. That could have been Chris Conley's spot. And we cut Conley, or better yet, we cut NWI, Nick Westbrook-Akine. We cut him. We cut one of them because they're just dead. Them two is just dead weight. Nick Westbrook-Akine for wide receiver 4 that he played, he did well for what he was supposed to do and the play calls that was. He's a good wide receiver 4. He's a decent, somewhat good wide receiver 3. He is not a good 2 or 1, which is what he was thrusting into last year. But you could have drafted a wide receiver in the 2nd round this draft. And then see what you got trial by fire and what is looking like, say Malik Willis falters, and what is looking like a stacked quarterback class for 2024. You got Caleb Williams out of USC. You got Drake May coming out of North Carolina. And the wild card in all this that has come out of nowhere is one Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado. Deion Sanders' primetime son. He and Deion Sanders is the toast of the talk, the toast of Colorado. Still is because the Broncos just lost to the Raiders, and Jimmy Garoppolo, who, Marcus Rove, you're watching this episode, I was thinking of you when the Raiders won the game, and you say you had no hope. So you have one more win than I do, buddy. You have one more win than the Titans do right now. So happy for you, Marcus. Your Raiders got to win. What against TCU? Yes, TCU got they can't play defense for lick. But the way that Shedeur was pressured and the way the Nebraska defense, which looks really good, got after Shedeur Sanders and the rest of that Colorado offense, of how he adjusted and how he said, okay, that's not there, going through the reads, delivering throws, all of that. It's beautiful to watch. It's a whole slew of, it is just unbelievable to watch right now in Colorado. And he is eligible, I believe, for this year's draft, if I'm not mistaken, to where you could have used 2023 as a year trial by fire and see if one of these two guys right here can be the guy. But he chose to roll with Tannehill instead. And that is the bed that our team gets to lie in. That's the bed they made. They must lie in it for the rest of the season and face criticism if they continue down the slumbering path of now 8 straight losses on the year. And I believe that covers it for my 2 cents on the Titans. Derrick Henry, again, like first half, he did really well rushing the football. I think it was like one of their first drives in the first quarter where he stiff-armed. He did another stiff arm. Like the dude better have like a 99 stiff arm in Madden. And I'm not a Madden fan. EA needs to lose the rights, the exclusive rights. They need to lose the exclusive rights and let another developer like 2K or someone else have a crack at it for making football games. But man, I went nuts when he just stiff-armed that Saints defender for just another stiff-arm fellow that has to suffer at the hands of King Henry. But hey, they're the ones laughing because we're the ones that can't score touchdowns, and we find a way to score 15 points in the game, and they win the game in New Orleans. So that's the Saints-Titans game right there. Other games that happened this weekend. Oh, yes. Texas beats Alabama. When Alabama loses, everybody wins. That's all I have to say about that. And I tell you what, Texas is going to be in the SEC next year. This is not the last time Alabama will face the Longhorns. This is not the last time. And this is going to be a nuisance in Nick Saban's rear end for years to come. For years to come with Nick Saban against that Longhorn team. They should have lost last year. This year they actually put up the points this year. And they delivered the goods. I think Longhorns are going to be one of the top 4 teams in college football. And it's looking like, Alabama's going down the tubes. Clemson's going down the tubes. Georgia, Michigan, it's looking like it's going to be right now. Right now it's looking like it's going to be Georgia, Michigan, and then Texas, I want to say. Who that 4th spot could be, Ohio State, USC, maybe Tennessee, maybe the Vols finally sneak in there. But Joe Milton doesn't look good. He doesn't if they had last year's roster intact for like one more year, they'd be steamrolling folks right now. They would have steamrolled Austin Peay with ease. But they let them hang around the game, and it makes me wonder what they're going to do against Alabama, Florida, and the other SEC teams out there. It makes me wonder. But hey, if Tennessee can rack up the wins and like their only losses of Georgia, then maybe they have a viable argument for them making the college football playoff. They go undefeated, they definitely will because Georgia's on their schedule. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, I will end the podcast right there. Thank you so much for joining this episode of what was a it's like here's the thing with me as a Titan fan. I call myself a realist fan. I predict that this team's not going to do well. I say we're going to have a floor of 5 to 7 wins on a year. I don't want it to happen. I don't want it to happen at all. I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong in what I say. But it still pains me and it still hurts me when I'm proven right. It pains me when we are just so inept on the offensive end. It just seems like we're just so inept in whatever ways on the offensive end. And I hate being right. I want to be wrong. Now watch next week. The Titans are going to have one of them stupid back-to-back weeks where the Titans are the Titans. You lose, and then, oh my gosh, they beat the Chargers in the game they shouldn't have won. That would be the typical Titan way of how things go down. In terms of chaos, in terms of trying to keep fans that want to say Tannehill is the guy, he's the better quarterback, and Mike Vrabel knows what he's doing in terms of trying to shut these folks up. These losses have got to stack up to where more eyes are open to saying, yeah, this ain't working. This is not working at all. What's going on here? Why'd you bring him back? Why are you here, Vrabel? What do you contribute as a head coach on the offensive end? What do you contribute? Oh, by the way, Tim Kelly was your offensive choice. So why are we trusting you with coaching decisions? Why? The more we lose, those questions have to be brought up. The Paul Kowarskis of the world, the ADZ Sports of the world, the Tennesseans of the world, the Sam Fallons, the Buck Risens of the world, the Sick Podcasts of the world. They have TikTok time. Everybody in the Titan stratosphere that has a voice, that has a platform, needs to be holding this team's feet to the fire. And I'm trying my best not to overreact to week one. It is just week one. There's no way it's going to happen, but we could win the rest of our games. 16-1 could be our record. It could be on a different multiversal world where the sky is green, I guess, in this multiversal world where we're 16-1. But those with the platform out there, all of us need to be holding Vrabel and this brass of coaches and players' feet to the fire and not hold their hand in anything and not let them get away with coach speak, and not take any slight answer or deflecting questions. We need straight answers, and we live now in a world where Sean Payton and Deion Sanders are not your typical suited and booted type of coaches. They will tell it like it is, and we need a coach that needs to just tell it like it is and just say, hey, our quarterback, yes, he did have a bad game. He had a bad game. We're going to look at the film and see what we can improve on. But yes, our quarterback has got to play better. Words like that, most fans will rip their hair out for Vrabel acknowledging that, hey, Tannehill may be the problem, but at least some of the respect level goes up in saying that you know what the problem is, you set the problem, and you're going to say you're going to do something about it. Okay, let's see what you do about the problem. Instead of lumping everybody into what is supposedly a team problem when we know it's a one-player problem. So we will end the podcast right there. And thank you for watching this show. My name is Joshua Mickle. And until next time, keep kicking it to the king.